I would like to start with a kind of disparity between, we know and we're told time and time again that mobile usage is going through the roof, that consumers spend all their time on mobile. Yet, a study that Warc did actually on the state of mobile marketing in Asia Pacific, and most advertisers confess to not having a mobile strategy. And you couple that with the fact that there were some findings from the GRIT report in 2013 that said 40%, only 40% of researchers were going to use mobile at all in that particular year. So how do we account for this disparity? What are the barriers to greater adoption in your opinion? Who would like to start?
I will start first. I think my case will be awareness. I have not really thought about mobile research until Colin or Jasper called me. It's very interesting because we do talk to research company a few times a year, and it never came out the options of incorporating mobile as one of the potential platforms to complement insight gathering. It's never came out. So I think it will be mainly awareness. As to why other brands are not picking up mobile research as a solution, I think probably it's quite similar to why some brands are not doing a mobile marketing strategies. I guess it depends on the nature of the industries that you're in. Also, the role of mobile with consumer that uses your products or your brands, where it impacts purchase decisions in that context. So in the typical path to purchase for example, grocery buyers, when do they actually interact with mobiles? When do they talk to their friends about what to buy? All these play a part into determining whether or not that is relevant for these in the whole scheme of things.
I think awareness is one big part of the reason why people are not still on mobile platform for research. But personally, I think it's because people do not understand the benefits and also the drawbacks of doing research on a mobile platform. Well, for me as a qual researcher, especially, I'm not really that keen on mobile research. Yeah, so yeah, I said it. Yeah, so yeah, so because I think it remains a cold medium for research, as compared to a face-to-face kind of interview. So the real-world interactions are missing out in terms of when it comes to mobile research. Well, unless we can humanize it, in some ways, then it may be. For me, I'm still very skeptical to adopt mobile research as a alternative medium. Yeah.
Just to challenge that a little bit, Desmond. So one thing can be said about groups is that people don't always say exactly what they mean. So they might say what the researcher might want to hear, or they might be saying one thing but actually thinking of something else. So, so do you think mobile research, when it's actually, for example, ethnography, or if it was video diaries, and we've heard a lot about in this conference the moment of truth, do you think that would be more truthful, perhaps, than some techniques within qualitative research, or at the group level?
Me,
yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that when we're doing interviews, right, face-to-face interviews, I guess we also need to note the things that have not been said,
Yeah.
And also understand why it's not said, and not only analyze on the things that have been said, you see. So, and the non-verbals come in as well, and it's quite important that we notice that. So, I think these are some of the things that mobile research can't really, give you. It may be a very good complementary tool to qual. Yeah. So that that I give you, right?
Yeah.
But it can never replace the human touch, if you will, of qualitative research. Yeah, so that's my take on mobile research, right? So
Okay.
you can kill me now. So
Okay.
Can I kill you? I'm actually a rookie in this area, but at that point of view, maybe in a typical qual research where it is manifested in the form of a focus group, you are essentially bringing together strangers, right? So there's typically a warming up sessions, and you make them comfortable, give them food, give them drinks, to make them comfortable in sharing. I'm just wondering, maybe it's a case where we need to modify the setting. If we were to do a qual research on mobile platforms, maybe by putting this in a community setting, for example, you get a group of people who are like-minded, who share certain passions, and where you have interaction in more than just one occasion, and to think about gathering insights over a few times, a few interactions, and then accumulating finding from there.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if that will work better, because I think people get to know each other a little bit more. I didn't think about using WhatsApp. I think during one of the pre-conference workshop, it was brought up that WhatsApp could potentially be one of the things, platforms we can use to do qual research, and it sets me thinking. Krista's here. From time to time, we do talk to our friends about where to go for like dinner and where to go out, on Friday night, and essentially it's just a social discussion, but it is a research in a way, in a form, because you are trying to find out which location has the most popular vote. So in that context, maybe if we were to change the paradigms a little bit, the frame a little bit, we may still be able to derive some positive.
maybe, yeah.
Just to interrupt, please welcome Christel Queck to the stage as well, content lead for Twitter. Okay, so we've heard of lack of awareness, and we've heard of that mobile research could be potentially too cold. Tyrone, what's your take on the barriers to greater adoption?
Before I get to the barriers, let me tell you the way I define mobile research, and I missed the earlier day, so I don't know if this was covered. But there are two components to it. I think one part is where the mobile serves as an automated data collection system. So that's location-based servicing. Where are they? What are they doing? You get that information today from the telcos, from some of our service providers. So I know what they're looking for online, things like that. The second part is using the device as a communication medium, the way we do face-to-face interviews today, using that for similar purposes, which could be a voice call, or it could be basically an SMS interview, or things like that. Now, the former, I think, is still widely prevalent. Many companies are doing it. I don't think there's a barrier there. On the latter, I think it boils down to being very clear about what this new mode is solving for me. So either is it bringing more convenience, is it getting the pricing down, or is it getting information that I couldn't didn't have access to earlier? For me, the most powerful one is something that we were talking earlier is getting information live at the moment of truth. For example, the first time the mom's using a diaper with her child, okay, can I get her online at that time to talk about what the experience is like? Or the first time they are tasting the product, or reaching out on the shelf to pick something or sniff a fragrance. Okay, these are moments of truth which we never get live in terms of the reaction and the feedback. And that's where a very personal device, which is on you all the time, is going to be very important to kind of get those reactions. So for me, that is a very clear case where I've defined a problem that traditional research can't solve for me very well today, and that's where mobile is playing a part. So I think the real challenge for I think some of the folks like me is defining the problem that this solves uniquely or differently or better versus existing tools, which I think, frankly, most people haven't done a good job of today.
Okay, cool. So, Christel, we're talking about why mobile research is not bigger than it currently is, and we're also acknowledging that mobile marketing itself is, everyone's talking about it, but in actual fact, few advertisers have a mobile strategy. Why do you think there might be that disparity, in your opinion?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with education. So from the Twitter part of it, right, 80% of all interactions on Twitter actually occur on mobile right now, even on non-feature smartphones. So what we try to do to educate clients on this per se is that we look at it from an overall content strategy and how is it served on different platforms, is it on mobile, or is it on web. So I think at the end of the day, it's because there is a lack of, how do I put it, automation in the kind of process for mobile research. And I think a lot of it has to go back to reaching the top of the funnel, looking at awareness, looking how do you actually drive that education down to the client level. Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering, we heard Coca-Cola talking about yesterday that they very famously have the 70-20-10 budget allocation model. So they take 10% of their budget and they're able to innovate against that, and they'll be able to test it. I'm wondering whether one of the barriers to greater adoption is clients are nervous because it's untested and it's new, it's uncharted waters as such. So do you guys agree with that?
Yes, we're always nervous. The management's always nervous as to where you're going to pouring the money into. I think I would agree with how the approach that Coca-Cola is taking. We typically would want to try, but in a smaller scale, build the learning from there, and then try to scale bigger when there's a substantial scope for it. And that's how we have approached in a lot of the new initiatives that we have as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it easy to sell in that type of approach internally in client organizations? Take some of the budget and say, okay, we've got permission to fail, we'll try something, but if it doesn't work out, it's okay. Is that easy?
In my capacity, yes, it's possible to carve out a little bit of budget to do that. But what I would typically do as well is to have concurrently knowledge sharing with the management so that they're constantly kept abreast of what is happening out there in terms of best practices that are available in similar industries and how it could actually, how these respective brands have also benefited from this new kind of initiative and then build confidence from there. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also important to convince people that it is not just a marketing function, but that there is actually benefits for businesses and the various stakeholders. So if you were to pitch from that perspective, there is typically higher level of receptiveness to new ideas or even mobile research.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So the way to pitch it internally is not just marketing; it's an answer or solution to much wider business problems. I think for us,
it's we work very closely with the various stakeholders. I mean, ITDs as well as the business operations, because it all has to be relevant and you all have to dovetail back to business needs. Yeah.
Okay. Can I just jump in there? I just wanted to share my experience in that. I think I mean, this is a classical case of how do you get something new to be adopted in an organization. It's not just mobile research. There are a number of different things in there. And I think it boils down to what I think is three broad buckets. Do you have conceptual buy-in for the idea, be it mobile research or something else? If you don't go past that stage, everything else is meaningless. So assuming you've got conceptually people sold on to the idea that mobile research makes sense, these are the problems it typically solves, the next step would be actually proving it to them in real life, which is running a pilot, the ability to track the output from that pilot and showing concrete business results, and then providing and making it easier for them to replicate that pilot. So I've typically followed those three steps: a conceptual sell-in, a pilot, which I've got a vendor to do really cheap for me, the ability to track it, and then making it so easy for them to replicate the process without my intervention. I do that, and within a short few cycles, the new idea or technique is up and running in the organization.
So one of the, if I was a client, one of the concerns that I have is that you take all of this data and this research, and it provides very illuminating insights, but how do you marry all that together? Is that a challenge for you guys? Are you able to synthesize research from different sources? Or at the end of the day, does it come down to applying some gut feel like we heard earlier and some intuition, and then taking a leap of faith based on all the great insights that you've managed to gather?
to me, it's a holy grail at this point, because as you, even for analytic informations, whether it's social analytics, customer analytics, or even your research findings, there has to be a common, there has to be some way to tie everything together, and we've not been able to do that. And a lot of time we have to apply gut feel, but at the end of the day, you all have to dovetail back to, I would actually maybe go all the way back to the reason why we started in first place in terms of business objective. If I'm trying to reach out or understand a particular customer segment better, does all of this allow me, maybe it paints different aspect of the same customers to give me a complete pictures. But right now I have not seen or been exposed to a common platforms that we can tie everything together. So you do have to apply some
and is
mentor,
is the solution to synthesizing all this data, is it done by you guys in-house, or do you outsource it? What's the model? What's the optimized model for that?
For us, it's in-house.
Yeah, in-house as well. So, well, my take on this is many a times we are faced with a deluge of information, right? So we are, overwhelmed to an extent, inundated by so much information that we get. Hence, I raised the question of information overload this morning, right? So I think, to me, it's good to have so much information on one hand, but then again, it could be a double-edged sword, right? So if you know too much, you tend to overanalyze, and then you make decision making even harder for the management, And so I guess it also requires a lot of experience and gut feel, like what you have said, right? To just nail it down to like what 7, 8 points and present it to the management, So we can't be going into a management meeting with like a 100-page kind of reports and hey, here it is. So
do you have any tips for the audience in terms of how you are able to spot those insights and how you get them to rise to the top, or is it just you just see them and those are the ones you pull out of the data and then present it on internally?
Drink beer, does it?
Beer is the solution.
No, personally, I think we just need to be clear about what we want to achieve out of research, right? And then now is the era of big data, where and almost anything and everything goes. It's all about like getting as much as possible from the customers. So I think we need to be clear and need to be focused on one or two areas that we want to achieve out of the research. And clients being clients, except me, they will. I worked in an agency before this, so so clients will ask for the world when it comes to the research brief. They have like 15 objectives to be achieved. So I think that's a bad practice. So we need to be more focused.
Tyrone, how do you mine for your insights at Kellogg's?
So just coming to the point on this data reconciliation issue, different sources. I think that's an extremely important part, which is often overlooked. Sometimes people say that the data just can't be reconciled. It's different sources. Let's live with it. I have found that the biggest insights come from spending that painful amount of time in reconciling the data. What happens by that is because different data sources give you different parts of the picture. Sometimes they give you contradictory portions of the same part of the picture. So two things happen when you do the data reconciliation. One is you figure a larger picture which you didn't know existed because it's throwing you in different directions, but that is reality. The second one is sometimes you'll figure that some data source is actually wrong, and you should be discontinuing it or maybe working with the vendor to fix it. But the fact that you ignore the data reconciliation issue means you're either missing out on insights or you're paying for data that's not right. Again, just a point on that, it's never going to be possible to reconcile it 100%, but the further you go on it, I think the better.
So, Christel, Twitter is a mine of great data out there. How do you recommend to clients to be able to use data that's available on Twitter?
Yeah, so that's an interesting point because I recently joined Twitter and we've been going to client meetings trying to understand what are the research needs, what do they want to get out of us. And I think one big point that has come up is very simple. How do I use Twitter and prove to my management that this results in retail footfall, that this results in sales, how do I make my media consumption and spend a lot more efficient? And what we're trying to do right now, at least in Asia, is to mine audience insights across not just the web, but across mobile as well. We're also looking at how do we actually demonstrate brand agility, media agility, and business agility through, of course, all the stuff that we have about users and what they tweet, where do they tweet it from, who are the people they interact with the most, and all these other things. We've also developed in-house tracking tools, regression models as well, to actually see how does a change or shift in your media spend actually directly correlate, and how does Twitter, as a real-time content medium, attribute to that. Because a lot of people right now, as we have noticed in Twitter itself, they use Twitter for 3 distinct things: self-expression, human connection, and real-time content and discovery. And in Asia in particular, a lot of people are focusing not on self-expression, ironically enough, but on human connection and on real-time content discovery. And this too is actually coming together, married together, and is funneling what we call this massive room of stalkers, as we like to call it, because a lot of people on Twitter right now in Asia, they lurk on the platform, but they don't contribute, except for a few power users. And what we're trying to demonstrate right now is, okay, how do you access these people? How do you understand more about them? And how can we serve them content that matter? So we're in talks right now with our top 20 global accounts in this region. We're setting up our research practice here, so everything is still up in the air at the moment.
It's interesting. We were talking at the top of the discussion about the worry about Qual not being, or mobile data not being human enough. But then if you take social network services like Twitter or Facebook or even WhatsApp, they are very real and very emotional. So I wonder if there is an opportunity to be able to leverage social network platforms to be able to get some real insights into what people think at the moment of truth, as and when they might be using or buying a product. What do you guys think of that? Could you see yourselves having focus groups on WhatsApp?
I can imagine doing something like that, but as I've mentioned earlier, probably may not be a one-off thing. I think I personally believe you probably have to be in a community setting.
Yeah.
So, and to basically continue to interact with this group of people over time.
Yeah. And Christina, you were talking earlier about some of the community work you've been doing at FairPrice. Do you want to share some of those insights?
I'm just sharing with Ed that a year ago we started an online, in a way, an online poll that involved mothers. Because I think in terms of grocery shoppings, we recognize that mothers are the one who are not only involved in the shopping processes, but they're involved in a lot of decisions in terms of what to buy for the kids. And I mean, when I have my little girl, I will travel long distance just to get the right organic cereal. So in terms of the level of involvement is very, very high. And we started a year ago an online community where we invite mothers to give us their opinions about brands that they buy. Essentially was to leverage really the power of peer validations, and among women, typically it's very common for us to chat with each other. What do you buy for your kids? When they're growing up, if they have allergies, what kind of products should I be looking at? So the poll basically is conducted every 2 months, and we've got so far about more than 1,000 people registered onto the panel. And every time we ask them about different categories, and we will have a number of brands available there to ask them about really what are some of the things you look for when you're looking for products of this category. For example, healthy snack, and between it, brand A to brand F, what is your preferred brand? And of course, the brand that has been voted most would then be recognized inside the store as the mother's pig, you know. And so we're kind of testing out this thing at the moment. At the same time, on this online platforms, we provided content relevant to the categories that we were talking about. If it's a snack or if it's a fresh produce, we will have recipes, we have tips, we have write-ups about maybe even, you know, basically based on crowdsourced information as well as information that's sourced by us, articles relevant to that topics. So I mean, this is just something that we are starting out with. I can see this actually happening really when I was thinking about this. It was really platform neutral. The site is mobile optimized, so can it be considered a kind of a mobile research? Maybe. But you know, it crossed my mind that it has to be mobile, it has to be, you know, online, it has to be on the street. But beyond that, beyond the interactions online, we from time to time we organize and get together. We invite them to events and things like this. So yeah, this is some kind of community thing, and I find that it's probably quite an interesting way to get people engaged over time, and these people do come back from time and time again, participating in the poll. And so far, we've not asked them a lot of questions, but over time, yes, maybe, you know.
So do you think you'll evolve the program into mobile following this conference, perhaps?
It is mobile. The site is mobile optimized,
okay.
So yeah, why not?
Okay. Yeah. And what about you guys? Are you guys doing any online community work or?
Yeah, we've got a brand in Kelloggs called Special K, which is about, you know, it's a weight management cereal. It's got a few other product lines as well, but the brand's about weight management. So obviously you've got community groups already existing like Weight Watchers and stuff like that, and that's where we get a lot of our ideas, because people go online and they write about the experience, they write about the challenges in maintaining a diet, so we get what we call classical barriers. Okay, we get product ideas, we get emotional insights, all from this forum. So it's already in practice, and again, the question then arises, if I'm thinking of mobile, what is it that mobile is bringing new to the picture? And I struggle with that. There are other areas where I do see mobile playing a part, but frankly, in some of these areas, it almost seems like I'm trying to get into mobile for the sake of it, rather than it's solving something that I'm struggling with.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if I can add, I think the approach is also important. When we are to engage with the customers, right, or the consumers or the respondents, for that matter. If we call it a research, and it's quite boring, if we call it something else, make it more sexy, then I think it will raise the level of engagement and make it more interesting. It's like the way you did it with your community panel, yeah. So I think the way we sell it to the clients and also the respondents, it is quite important. The approach that we take. Drop
the term research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mobile itself is much sexier.
Well,
or online community management, or.
Yeah, to me, I think yeah. Make it into a more interactive, driven kind of a platform. Like WhatsApp. It's more conversational. It's more on chatting rather than giving feedback on a research basis. So
I personally think the chat is a great opportunity, particularly in Asia, where within a group of like-minded individuals or peers, then people will express how they feel, as opposed to amongst a group of strangers. And I don't know. I think there's. What do you think of chat as a research opportunity, Christelle?
It definitely has a lot of users. I can't elaborate upon whether chat is going to appear in Twitter's features, because I think that's the next question that you might ask. But you have to wait and see what's going to happen this year for us. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Maybe we'd like to open up the session to questions from the floor. Does anyone have any questions for the panel?
Just got a very curious question. So I think more towards Desmond, because he was saying that he doesn't really think that mobile is preferred choice. But you do work for Celcom, which is a telco giant in Malaysia, and I would imagine that your bosses would probably tell you that, hey, if we could do this, you wouldn't even need to pay for it because you could get most of it from Celcom, right? So why not try that as well, because in my mind, when web first came up, I'm assuming that, the paper and pen guys would have been, oh, this is very cold. And I'm assuming that this is, again, the new frontier, and companies which take the opportunity to jump in first probably get a head start versus those who wait for someone to do it and then follow. Again, it's just a very curious question. Thank you.
Well, I guess it depends on how we utilize the platform, I think it's a good complementary tool, but like I said, it can never replace what Qual can do in totality. I think it has a lot of drawbacks as well, To me, comparing mobile research versus a face-to-face interview is like having virtual sex versus the real thing, you see. So if I can put it that way, So you can't replace that, with mobile platform, yeah. But it's one area that we can explore, and like I said, it depends on how we use it. If we use the platform to do conventional surveys, 10, 15 questions, then there's no point in doing it. So how is it going to value add to what I've been doing all this while, right? And it may be cheaper, but from a quality point of view, will it give me better quality feedback from the sample or from the respondents? That's another story. And I'm not sure whether this can be done, but I'm quite interested to explore digital ethnography kind of research, you see. So, I think it's a platform that allows clients to have much better access into user-generated content, people can send us photos and videos and what else is that, text or whatever. So we can generate this database, so to speak, and do our own analysis. So that's one thing that the conventional research can't give to us. So I think that may be more interesting to me, as a Qual researcher, Yeah.
Tyrone, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, this is, Desmond's conversation sparked a few thoughts. I think the challenge for me previously has been looking at mobile research in isolation, as a replacement. I think that's where the issue is. If you look at it as a supplement, for example, the case about you're doing some work, you send the respondents out with their phones, snap pictures of what they see, upload it onto the site, maybe answer a few questions, come back later for a detailed debrief a week later. Maybe, it's like diary collection is now getting mobile, right? That's where I see now a confluence of traditional mobile research with classical research happening. That's more powerful versus thinking of it in isolation as a replacement for something versus an add-on.
Yep. I want to come back to Desmond and sex. The great criticism about research, face-to-face research, is that the interviewer is there, the behavior changes. So if we wanted to understand real sex in the bedroom, putting an interviewer there is going to change the pattern. But we've got devices. We've got devices like I'm wearing a Fitbit here, which tells me how I sleep. Now, I might well take it off under some circumstances. But if we wanted to understand bedroom behavior, we're going to probably do a lot better with devices that track behavior and pattern. So guys who claim to have sex 5 times a week and last 20 minutes, their tracking device may give us a very different insight into what's going on, and the sort of insight that's not available if we have face-to-face research. So we've got some very new alternatives that are not replacement, they are different.
How do you even answer that kind of question, right? Well, of course, if you use it in different contexts, of course it's more useful than the conventional approaches. Yeah, like monitoring sex.
Yeah, my key point is that we have an interviewer effect. All the time we have qualitative researchers there, we have interviewer effects. People behave differently. And the big opportunity with mobile is to get the interviewer out of the process and to look at real behavior, not claim behavior, not perceived behavior, but real behavior.
But then there's this thing called an alter ego or online persona that you take on when you're behind the small screen or a big screen, right? You know, so it's the same thing. So you adopt a different persona when you're behind the monitor. That's why you see a lot of trolling on the internet right now. So when you interview them face to face, they are a different person. So it's you know. So it's the same thing with mobile research. Yeah.
Just on that note, do you also think that online research is not as effective, therefore? Because they are behind the screen, you don't see them.
You're gonna pay me more after this, right? Well, I guess it depends on how you use it. You know, that's my point. You see, so if you're gonna use a new medium with an old approach, then yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's an interesting point, the real people versus online persona. I think there's the moment of truth stuff, so you can be there at the heat of the moment and understand what's actually happening, but then actually sometimes people do take on different types of behavior through that online persona.
I have a question, maybe looking forward at this and backwards. If we would have thought about online research 10 years ago, and I remember when we were going from paper and pencil, face-to-face interviews to online, and there was so many studies done about, oh, is it valid? Can we go online with research? Can we replace? Is it valid research? And a lot of what was discussed over the last 2 days is really about proof of concept. Does mobile work as well as online? And I think there's a lot of evidence that we're just changing the technology, but the way we survey people is through the phone and a lot of clicking of buttons. How do you think mobile technology will change the way we research altogether? Going from, instead of answering questions, but I think someone's going to talk about devices and other gamification, other things beyond just standard Q&A through a phone. Do you guys have any perspectives on where you think the industry could or will evolve in that way?
I think that's a very good question. I think we had with some earlier discussion on that as well. I think if, for one point, in terms of convincing the change into adopting a new platform for research, I think we first have to maybe convince us that if you were to apply research evaluation parallel, right, across, what are the things that defines effectiveness, efficacies of a certain type of research? Is it sample size? Is it accuracy of the profiling, things like that? If we can somehow apply that across, then I think we are one step further in terms of convincing people to switch to mobile research methodology. And at the same way also, I think if you were to look at the evolutions of the internet and social media, when internet first became popular, brands were getting onto the web, but the websites were looking more like digital brochures, right? And then when social media come about, brands are starting to get on in it, and you see a lot of them using the Facebook as an alternative website. So I guess the thing is, and what we are then missing out, we were to do that, is that we are trying to navigate a new landscape with an older perspective. Maybe what we need to do is really look at leveraging the strength and the characteristics of the platforms that we're in. In the case of mobile, of course, the advantage is the ability to share, to connect, to be a little bit more spontaneous. And maybe it's a case of coming from the landscape to see how then this can help to contribute in gathering insights, and then design methodology to work around that landscape. Because brands are talking to consumer differently on social media. So I guess maybe that's the approach that we have to take in terms of progressions.
Yeah.
various different kinds of behavioral measurements, like this Google Glass, and then you're wearing something, and then face recognition, brand recognition that we were talking about. Is there a foreseeable future where the questionnaire goes away? Is that even something that we want to talk about?
I'll just give you my opinionated viewpoint on that. For me, there's two kinds of data broadly. There's what we get from interviews, claim data, and there's what I call observational data. Okay, and maybe a third class, what I call inferred data. And let me explain what I mean. So the classic questionnaire is claim data. Okay, observational data is things like you get on the mobile phone location, where do they visit. Okay, just looking at the online searches, that's observed data. There's no claim in there. That actually happened. And the third one is inferred data. What do I mean by that? For example, if you take observational data like these are the brands I'm buying, okay, and combine it with claim data like this is what I think about the brands, okay, then you can combine those two and infer what's driving brand choice by looking at the actual purchase and the perception of brands. Okay. I see the shift happening more and more to the latter two, okay, because claim data has so much risk, we all know about that. So if I see the trend, it's really about getting more and more observational in terms of the data and more in terms of inferred. Okay, so to your point about can we do away with the questionnaire? Maybe in time, never say never, but I think there's definitely a trend away from that, definitely a trend in my company that I'm pushing away from direct questioning, away from claim data.
My question's for Christelle. I'd like to know more about how you know who are stalkers on Twitter, and what kind of insights can you share on stalkers based that they're not actually posting any content. So how do you know what they're actually reading, for example?
So that's an interesting question because a lot of people use technology differently, and I think what Desmond said, what Christine said about online personas, they really come into full play, especially on Twitter, because I think broadly in general, at least in Asia for now, there is a lack of understanding for the common user on how to use Twitter properly, because right now it's too unapproachable for the everyday user, and it's too basic for the power user. And right now we're trying to solve the gap in between. And the in between that is happening right now is that all these lurkers are happening. And how do we measure them? They log in, they don't post any single thing for 1 year, up to a year, but they're consuming, they are looking, and they're active every single day. So there's this massive in between that we're trying to fix right now, and hence we might be coming up with new features this year to resolve that problem, which I can't talk about, but yes. But we do recognize that, and that's why I think the 3 key pillars that we want to push for Twitter this year, especially in this region, are some of the new programs that my team and myself will be launching. It's to facilitate human connection, self-expression, and content discovery, because we have realized that if any person does not do 2 of the 3 options on Twitter, they will drop out after a year. Self-expression, human connection, content discovery. So let's say, for instance, right, if you keep using it as a content discovery engine and you just read articles all day long, but you don't post anything, after 1 year you'll be bored and you'll drop out. If you don't engage with anyone and you just talk all about yourself all day long, you will drop out as well. So that's what we also found out, because we had a couple of people who are like Justin Bieber fans, for instance. They talk all day long about how much they love Justin Bieber, and after 1 year, they are nowhere to be found. So that happens.
So you heard it here first, Twitter's strategy to create more stickiness with the platform. Very, very good. Do we have time for another question? Any other questions from the floor? No, I think we're good. So it just leaves me to thank our esteemed panel today for sharing all the insights and being very candid with their feedback. Thank you very much.